Okay, so it's Cat Stanley, Space Demon, coming at you again, live from Detroit Rock City. And today I want to talk about Paul Stanley's beef with Michael Bolton. Now, Michael Bolton's probably best known for his string of hits in the late 80s and early 90s, including top 10 songs like Time, Love, and Tenderness, and his cover of Percy Sledge's When a Man Loves a Woman. You might remember the movie Office Space, where they had the character Michael Bolton. They referenced him as being a no-talent ass clown. I imagine a lot of people associate that with Michael Bolton at this point, but I want to talk about the time he crossed paths with Kiss's Paul Stanley. Of course, by the late 1980s, the band Kiss had long since reinvented themselves. They had taken their trademark makeup off, and they were now riding the wave of what was called hair metal. They'd refined their sound into a more radio-friendly sound, and they were basically focused on trying to get on the radio and have hits. I guess Paul had hooked up with Michael Bolton in 1989 during the writing and recording of their Hot in the Shade LP, Kiss's Hot in the Shade album. The pair had teamed up for a writing session. Now, Bolton had previously collaborated with singer Laura Branigan. Two of their efforts, a song called I Found Someone, would be a hit for Cher in 1987, and Bolton's rendition of How Am I Supposed to Live Without You would top the Billboard chart in 1990. So I guess Paul decided to hook up with Bolton to try to write a hit for their album Hot in the Shade. And I guess Stanley and Bolton had started working together on a song called Forever. But before the song was completed, apparently Michael had bolted. I guess the two of them had a dispute over, how to end the song. So Michael took a hike, and Paul basically had an unfinished song. Paul would say about that writing session in 2003, Forever was started and not finished because we couldn't quite figure out how to wrap it up. Michael Bolton split, and since I started the song with him, you don't want to finish something with somebody else. But I guess when the time came, assistant producer Vinnie Poncia approached Paul about what material he had for the album. They were working on Hot in the Shade. So Paul played him the bit that he had written with Michael Bolton for the song Forever. Vinnie Poncia loved it and encouraged Paul to finish the song, and he would go on to finish the song. It would wind up on the album Hot in the Shade, and it would go on to become a big hit and enable Kiss to embark on a big arena tour in support of the album. Of course, the song Forever was this big, sweeping, melodious power ballad, a bit softer than what Kiss fans had been accustomed to from the band, something out of character for Kiss up to that point. Hot in the Shade overall was more of a pop record than Kiss had really done before. But in 2014, in his memoir, Face the Music, Paul had this to say about the song Forever. Funny thing about Forever, because it was somewhat uncharacteristic for Kiss. People pegged it as a Michael Bolton song, since he was co-credited as a songwriter. Surely I couldn't have written it. In fact, after an all too brief initial writing session at the Sunset Marquee, Michael had so little to do with it that once it became a hit, he asked the Kiss front office to fax him a copy of the lyrics. Only then did he start performing the song in concert and introducing it as a song he had wrote for Kiss. So apparently, Paul was pretty pissed off at the fact that here Michael Bolton, who had basically bolted during the songwriting session, was now taking credit for this song that they had written together. Paul's claiming credit for the bulk of the composition, but here Bolton is. He's out on the road performing the song, introducing it as the big hit song he had written for Kiss, which is kind of funny to me to think about, Paul Stanley and Michael Bolton having a beef. I couldn't help but think about what a fight between Paul Stanley and Michael Bolton might look like. Professional wrestler Hitman Hart had a famous fight with his rival Shawn Michaels back in the 1990s in the WWE. And both of those guys, they had really long hair at the time. And Bret Hart kind of likened their fight, which included a lot of hair pulling. He likened it as two prostitutes fighting in downtown, which is kind of how I envision a fight between Paul Stanley and Michael Bolton being. You know, there'd probably be a lot of hair pulling, some scratching. I don't really see any punches being thrown. You know, maybe some limp-wristed, open hand slapping. Kind of funny to think about a fight between Michael Bolton and Paul Stanley. But Paul Stanley would also go on to say this about the song Forever. I guess apparently when the song was finished, he had a confrontation with an A&R man at the band's record label over how the ending of the song should go. Paul felt strongly that the song should end cold with the acoustic guitar outro, but the A&R man, who was a much younger guy than Paul at the time, was suggesting that they fade out the song with the chorus. And so Paul says to this younger guy, he says, "I was doing this when you were in grade school. I was at this label before you were here, and I'll be here after you're gone. So thanks, but no thanks." And then Stanley goes on to say that Forever reached number 8 on the Billboard singles chart, giving them their first top 10 single in more than a decade. And not long after that, the record company Expert was replaced with the next one. So here Paul's gloating about how the song went on. He stuck to his guns, and the song went on to be a huge hit single. And this young A&R man, shortly thereafter, was sacked. And Paul's reveling in the fact that here this guy was out of employment, at least temporarily. But that's the story. Paul Stanley's beef with Michael Bolton and the imaginary cat fight that might have taken place if they would have had a celebrity death match or, you know, a pay-per-view. I might have paid to see that, a few dollars, I don't know. But hope you guys dug this one, and we'll see you next time.
Who's here?